Hey there, my friend. You know what's strange? We live in a world more connected than ever before, yet many of us feel more disconnected from our own peace and happiness. We're constantly bombarded with images of perfect lives on social media, perfect vacations, perfect relationships, perfect health. We spend our days chasing that distant treasure, believing that happiness is something you find out there, at the end of a rainbow or in a new purchase. We think, I'll be happy when I get that promotion, or I'll be happy when my kids are settled, or I'll be happy when I have enough money. But here's the powerful paradox that might just change everything you believe about a happy life. The ancient Stoics, people who lived over 2,000 years ago in a world of war, plague, and political upheaval, had already figured out what we're still struggling with today. They understood that happiness isn't something you find, it's something you build. It's not a result of your external circumstances, but a direct outcome of your internal choices, your mindset, and your commitment to inner strength. Think about Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher. This was the most powerful man in the ancient world. Yet in his private journal he wrote, "Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not." He wasn't focused on controlling his vast empire's happiness. He was focused on controlling his own response to life. This isn't about pretending everything is fine when it's not. This isn't about ignoring real problems or embracing some kind of fake positivity. This is about understanding a fundamental liberating truth. Your happiness isn't dependent on what happens to you. It's dependent on how you choose to respond to what happens to you. Right now, as you're listening to this, you might be dealing with stress at work, relationship challenges, financial worries, or health concerns. You might feel overwhelmed by the constant pressure to be successful or to have it all figured out. But what if I told you that some of history's wisest people faced the exact same struggles? What if I told you they developed a practical, actionable approach to finding peace and strength in the middle of life's chaos? The Stoic mindset isn't about being emotionless or disconnected. It's about being deeply connected to what matters most: your character, your choices, and your ability to find meaning in every moment. It's about pushing yourself to be happy, not because life is easy, but because you've developed the inner strength to choose happiness regardless of your circumstances. Get ready to discover the 7 principles that can help you do just that. So now that we've set the stage, let's talk about what this journey is really about. This isn't just another video about positive thinking or quick fixes. The principles we're about to explore, the 7 Stoic rules for daily happiness and strength, are ancient, battle-tested tools. They were developed not by academics in an ivory tower, but by real people facing immense pressure and hardship. These aren't just philosophical ideas to contemplate. They are practical, actionable strategies you can start using immediately to build lasting happiness and inner peace. Each of the 7 principles we'll discuss represents a different aspect of personal growth. Together, they create a complete roadmap, a foundation for a life of genuine fulfillment. Our journey is not about changing your external circumstances, because as we've already learned, many of those things are outside our control. Instead, it's about changing your internal response to those circumstances. It's about discovering that you have more power over your happiness than you ever realized. It's about learning to push yourself toward joy, peace, and strength every single day, regardless of what the world throws at you. Before we dive into these life-changing principles, I want you to do something for me. If this message is already resonating with you, if you're ready to take control of your happiness instead of waiting for it to find you, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment below sharing one thing you're committed to taking control of in your life. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message today. And make sure you subscribe to this channel because we're going to keep exploring these powerful ideas together. Don't skip any part of this video. Each principle builds on the last, and by the end, you'll have a complete blueprint for daily happiness and inner strength. The ancient Stoics believed that philosophy wasn't just for scholars, it was for living. Today, we're going to prove them right. Now, let's get real for a moment. As you're listening to these words, you might be carrying a heavy burden. Maybe it's the constant stress at work, the feeling of being overwhelmed by deadlines and demanding expectations. Or perhaps it's the quiet ache of a relationship that's struggling, a challenge that keeps you up at night. Maybe you're wrestling with financial worries that seem to grow with every passing month, or dealing with a health concern that reminds you of your own vulnerability. The world tells us that if we just work harder, scroll faster, or acquire more, these feelings will magically disappear. But the truth is, the pressure to be successful, to be perfect, to have it all figured out, can leave you feeling drained and defeated. We've been taught to believe that our problems are the source of our unhappiness. We're conditioned to think, if only this problem would go away, then I could finally be happy. And so we spend our lives in a state of waiting for the promotion, waiting for the right person, waiting for the perfect moment. But the Stoics understood that this is a trap. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature and the path to genuine contentment. See, most people wait for happiness to happen to them. They think, I'll be happy when I get that promotion, when I find the right relationship, when I have enough money, when everything falls into place. But the Stoics understood something truly revolutionary. Happiness is a practice, not a destination. It's a daily choice to focus on what you can control and let go of what you can't. When Epictetus, who was born a slave and later became one of the greatest Stoic teachers, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." He wasn't speaking from a place of privilege. He was speaking from a place of deep, profound understanding about human suffering and the path to genuine freedom. He knew that your circumstances don't define your happiness. Your response to them does. So let's challenge that popular notion together. What if your happiness isn't at the mercy of life's chaos? What if you, right now, have the power to find peace and strength, not by avoiding your problems, but by developing the wisdom and courage to face them head on? This is the promise of Stoicism, and it's a promise we're about to explore one powerful principle at a time. Now, let's dive into the core of our journey together. These aren't just philosophical concepts. They are the 7 rules for living a good life, a life of peace and strength. Each one builds on the last, creating a solid foundation that no storm can wash away. Rule 1. Master your morning mind, the foundation of daily happiness. Here's something that will change everything about your day. The first 30 minutes after you wake up determine the emotional tone for the next 16 hours of your life. Most people stumble out of bed, immediately grab their phones and fill their minds with news, social media, and other people's problems before they've even had a chance to connect with themselves. They wake up reactive, already behind before the day has even started. But the Stoics understood that the morning mind is sacred ground. It's where you plant the seeds of either peace or chaos, of strength or weakness. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, had a morning practice that's recorded in his personal journal, Meditations. Every morning he would remind himself, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. Now, before you think this sounds negative, listen to the rest. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own. This wasn't pessimism. This was preparation. He was setting his mind for reality, not fantasy. He was choosing to approach his day with understanding rather than expectation. He was taking control of his mental state before the world had a chance to dictate it for him. Think about your typical morning. Do you wake up feeling rushed, anxious, already behind? Do you immediately start thinking about your problems, your to-do list, all the things that could go wrong? Or do you take time to intentionally shape your mindset for the day ahead? The Stoic morning practice isn't about meditation apps or complicated routines. It's about 3 simple but powerful choices. First, you acknowledge that today will bring challenges, and that's normal. Second, you remind yourself that you have the strength to handle whatever comes your way. Third, you focus on what you can control in the hours ahead. Your attitude, your effort, your responses to others. When you master your morning mind, something incredible happens. Instead of being reactive, you become responsive. Instead of being overwhelmed by circumstances, you become prepared for them. Instead of hoping for a good day, you create one through your mental preparation. Let me give you a practical example. Tomorrow morning, before you check your phone, before you start thinking about work or problems, spend just 5 minutes asking yourself 3 questions. What can I be grateful for right now? What one thing can I do today to move my life forward? And how do I want to show up in the world today? These questions aren't just positive thinking, they're strategic thinking. You're literally programming your brain for success and happiness. The neuroscience backs this up. When you start your day with intentional positive thoughts, you're activating the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for planning, decision-making, and emotional regulation. You're literally building stronger neural pathways for happiness and resilience. But here's what makes this truly stoic. You're not trying to control what happens in your day. You're taking complete control of how you approach what happens in your day. You're not setting yourself up for disappointment by expecting everything to go perfectly. You're setting yourself up for strength by preparing to handle whatever reality brings. Seneca, another great Stoic philosopher, wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." Your morning is the beginning of a new day, but it's also the end of yesterday's worries, yesterday's mistakes, and yesterday's limitations. When you master your morning mind, you're giving yourself permission to start fresh, to choose happiness, to build strength from the very first moment you're conscious. This practice becomes even more powerful when you understand that happiness isn't about avoiding difficulties, it's about facing them with the right mindset. The ancient Stoics lived through wars, plagues, and personal tragedies. They didn't have easy lives, but they had something more valuable. They had trained minds. Starting tomorrow morning, you can join this tradition. You can choose to master your morning mind instead of letting it master you. You can choose to set the tone for happiness instead of letting circumstances set the tone for stress. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I master my morning mind and choose my daily attitude. Rule 2, transform pain into purpose, the alchemy of difficult moments. Here's a truth that might make you uncomfortable at first. Your greatest moments of growth and your deepest experiences of genuine happiness often come not from your easiest days, but from your most challenging ones. This sounds backwards to everything we've been taught about pursuing pleasure and avoiding pain. But the Stoics discovered something profound about human nature. We're not built to be happy through comfort alone. We're built to find meaning, purpose, and yes, even joy through how we respond to difficulty. Epictetus, who knew suffering intimately, taught his students, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." He wasn't speaking theoretically. As a former slave who had experienced physical disability and social rejection, he understood that life's hardest moments aren't obstacles to happiness. They are the raw materials for building unshakable inner strength. Right now, you might be facing something that feels overwhelming. Maybe it's a relationship that's falling apart, a job that's crushing your spirit, health challenges that scare you, or financial pressure that keeps you awake at night. Your natural instinct is probably to wish these problems would just disappear. But what if instead of trying to escape your difficulties, you learn to transform them into the very foundation of your happiness? This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending that pain doesn't hurt. Pain does hurt. Loss is real. Disappointment cuts deep. But here's what the Stoics understood that most people miss. The pain itself isn't the problem. The problem is believing that pain automatically equals suffering. When you transform pain into purpose, you're not minimizing your struggles. You're maximizing your response to them. You're asking yourself powerful questions. What is this situation teaching me about my own strength? How is this challenge revealing capabilities I didn't know I had? What kind of person am I becoming through how I handle this difficulty? Think about the people you admire most. Are they people who've never faced hardship? Or are they people who've faced significant challenges and emerged with wisdom, compassion, and strength? The difference isn't in what happened to them. It's in how they chose to let those experiences shape them. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Nazi concentration camps, wrote something that echoes Stoic wisdom. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Nay, he discovered in the most extreme conditions imaginable that meaning and even moments of profound peace could be found not despite suffering but through the conscious choice of how to respond to it. This transformation happens through what I call the Stoic alchemy process. First, you acknowledge the reality of your situation without judgment. This is what's happening, and it's challenging. Second, you separate what you can control from what you can't. I can't control this situation, but I can control my response. Third, you ask the growth question. How can I use this experience to become stronger, wiser, or more compassionate? Let me give you a concrete example. Losing a job is painful. It creates financial stress, challenges your identity, and can feel like a personal failure. But when you apply Stoic alchemy, you start asking different questions. What skills was I neglecting that I can now develop? What kind of work environment do I actually want? How can this transition help me align my career with my values? The pain doesn't disappear, but it becomes productive. It becomes fuel for positive change. This approach works because it gives you agency in situations where you might otherwise feel powerless. When you're transforming pain into purpose, you're not a victim of your circumstances. You're an active participant in your own growth. You're not waiting for life to get easier. You're getting stronger. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I transform my challenges into strength and purpose. Rule 3. Release the need to control everything, the freedom in letting go. Here's something that might blow your mind. Most of your stress, anxiety, and unhappiness comes from trying to control things that were never meant to be controlled. Right now, you're probably carrying the weight of other people's opinions, future outcomes, past mistakes, and circumstances that are completely outside your influence. You're exhausting yourself trying to manage an unmanageable universe and then wondering why you feel overwhelmed and frustrated all the time. The Stoics had a revolutionary insight about this, one that is perhaps the most practical and liberating of all their teachings. Epictetus taught what's called the dichotomy of control, and he put it simply, some things are within our power while others are not. But here's where it gets life-changing. He said the things within our power are our opinion, our motivation, our desire, our aversion, and our mental faculties. Everything else, other people's behavior, the weather, the economy, the past, the future, is not within our power. Think about how much mental energy you spend every day worrying about things in that second category. Think about how much happiness you've postponed because you're waiting for circumstances to align perfectly, for people to act the way you want them to, for outcomes to match your expectations. This isn't living. This is fighting a battle you can never win. But here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop trying to control everything, you gain control over the only thing that truly matters, your inner state. When you release the need to manage the unmanageable, you free up enormous amounts of mental and emotional energy to focus on what you actually can influence. Marcus Aurelius, who had the power to control vast armies and territories, wrote in his private journal, "Confine yourself to the present." He understood that even the most powerful person in the world couldn't control tomorrow's events or change yesterday's mistakes. The only moment where you have any real power is right now, and the only domain where you have complete authority is your own mind. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like in daily life. You're stuck in traffic and you have an important meeting. The old you would spend the entire time stressed, angry, maybe honking the horn, checking your phone constantly, your heart racing with frustration. But when you embrace the Stoic approach, something different happens. You recognize that the traffic is outside your control. Getting angry won't move the cars faster. What you can control is your response. You use the time to practice deep breathing, maybe listen to something educational, or simply accept the delay and adjust your expectations. This isn't passive resignation. This is active wisdom. You're not giving up your power. You're reclaiming it from situations that never deserved it in the first place. This is where it gets truly profound. When you stop trying to control other people's behavior, your relationships improve dramatically. When you stop demanding that your partner, your children, your friends, or your co-workers act exactly as you think they should, you create space for genuine connection. You start accepting people as they are rather than resenting them for not being who you want them to be. The end of your need to manage everything is the beginning of your peace. The end of trying to force outcomes is the beginning of flow. The end of fighting reality is the beginning of working with it. This practice creates a profound sense of freedom. When you're not responsible for managing the entire universe, you can focus on managing yourself with excellence. Rule 4. Practice grateful perspective. The daily medicine for a happy heart. Here's something that will shift your entire relationship with happiness. You already have access to more joy than you could experience in a lifetime. But you've been trained to look everywhere except where it actually exists. Right now, as you're listening to these words, you're surrounded by miracles that you've learned to call ordinary. You have a beating heart that's pumped millions of times without you having to think about it. You have eyes that can process millions of colors and details. You have a mind that can imagine, create, and connect with ideas across time and space. Yet most of us spend our days focused on what we lack rather than marveling at what we have. The Stoics understood something revolutionary about human psychology. Gratitude isn't just a nice feeling, it's a fundamental practice for happiness. But they didn't practice gratitude the way most people do today. They didn't just make lists of good things and hope to feel better. They practiced what I call philosophical gratitude, a deep, intentional recognition of the abundance that exists even in difficult circumstances. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Notice he didn't write, "when everything is going perfectly in your life." He wrote, "when you arise in the morning." Every morning, good days and bad days, easy seasons and challenging seasons. This wasn't conditional gratitude based on circumstances. This was foundational gratitude based on the sheer miracle of existence itself. But here's where Stoic gratitude gets really powerful. They practice something called negative visualization. Seneca taught his students to regularly imagine losing the things they valued most: their health, their loved ones, their freedoms. This wasn't to create anxiety or fear. It was to create appreciation. When you truly consider what life would be like without the things you currently take for granted, you develop a profound sense of gratitude for their presence. Think about your relationships for a moment. The people you see every day, talk to regularly, maybe even get frustrated with sometimes. Now imagine what it would feel like if they were suddenly gone from your life. That ache you feel when you really consider their absence. That's gratitude trying to get your attention. That's your heart recognizing the value that was there all along, hiding behind familiarity. This practice transforms everything. When you regularly contemplate the temporary nature of your blessings, you stop taking them for granted. You start noticing the small moments of beauty that you usually rush past. You begin to see your ordinary life as the extraordinary gift it actually is. Grateful perspective goes even deeper than appreciating what you have. The Stoics practiced finding gratitude even for difficult experiences. Epictetus taught that everything that happens to you is an opportunity for growth. He said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." When faced with challenges, instead of asking, "Why is this happening?" try asking, "What is this teaching me to be grateful for?" Maybe a setback at work teaches you to be grateful for resilience you didn't know you had. Maybe a health scare teaches you to be grateful for the body that's been carrying you through life. This isn't about being grateful for suffering itself. It's about being grateful for the strength, wisdom, and compassion that can emerge from how you respond to suffering. Here's a practical exercise that will revolutionize your daily experience. Every evening, instead of reviewing what went wrong, spend 5 minutes identifying 3 things you can be genuinely grateful for. But here's the key. Don't just list them, feel them. Really consider what your life would be like without each one. This practice rewires your brain. Neuroscience shows us that gratitude literally changes your neural pathways, making it easier to notice positive experiences and harder to get stuck in negative thought patterns. But beyond the science, there's something almost magical that happens when you make gratitude a daily practice. You start to fall in love with your actual life, instead of waiting for some imaginary perfect version of it. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I see abundance and beauty in my life right now. Rule 5. Build unshakable inner worth, the foundation that no storm can destroy. Here's the most liberating truth you'll ever hear. Your worth as a human being has absolutely nothing to do with your achievements, your bank account, your appearance, your relationship status, or what other people think about you. This goes against everything our culture teaches us about success and happiness, but it's the key to the kind of deep, lasting contentment that can't be taken away by changing circumstances or others' opinions. Most people build their sense of worth on shifting sand. They feel good about themselves when they succeed and terrible when they fail. They're confident when people approve of them and devastated when people criticize them. They're happy when they're achieving their goals and depressed when they're struggling. But this creates an emotional roller coaster that never ends. Your happiness becomes dependent on things you can't fully control. The market, a boss's mood, a rival's success. Your value is constantly fluctuating, leaving you in a state of perpetual anxiety, desperately seeking external validation. The Stoics discovered something profound about human nature. True happiness comes from building your identity on unshakable foundations. Epictetus, who understood what it meant to have external worth stripped away, taught, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." He wasn't just talking about material wealth. He was talking about the wealth of inner security that comes from knowing your value doesn't fluctuate with your circumstances. Think about the people in your life who seem genuinely peaceful and content. I'm not talking about people who are always happy or who never face challenges. I'm talking about people who have a quiet confidence that doesn't depend on external validation. These people have learned what the Stoics knew, that your true worth comes from your character, your effort, and your commitment to being the best version of yourself, regardless of the results. This doesn't mean you stop having goals or trying to improve your life. It means you stop making your emotional well-being dependent on achieving those goals perfectly or immediately. You start finding satisfaction in the process rather than just the outcomes. You begin to understand that who you're becoming matters more than what you're accumulating. Marcus Aurelius, who had more external power and wealth than almost anyone in history, wrote, "Remember that very little disturbs us. It's our opinion of things that disturbs us." He understood that even with all the external advantages in the world, happiness still came from internal sources. He knew that building inner worth was more valuable than building an empire. When you base your worth on unshakable foundations, something magical happens in your relationships. You stop needing other people to validate you, which means you can love them more freely. You stop taking their moods and behaviors personally, which means you can respond with compassion instead of defensiveness. You stop trying to prove your value to them, which means you can focus on actually adding value to their lives. This principle also transforms how you handle failure and setbacks. When your worth isn't tied to perfect performance, failure becomes feedback instead of an identity crisis. When your value doesn't depend on never making mistakes, you can take risks, learn, and grow without the paralyzing fear of not being good enough. The practical application of this principle starts with daily self-reflection. Instead of reviewing your achievements, spend time connecting with your core values. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be, regardless of what I achieve? How do I want to treat others, regardless of how they treat me? What principles do I want to guide my life? Seneca wrote, "Every man is in bondage to fear who depends upon the whims of fortune." When your happiness depends on external circumstances, you're always at the mercy of forces beyond your control. But when you build your worth on internal qualities, your integrity, your compassion, your courage, your commitment to growth, you become truly free. This doesn't happen overnight, but each day you choose to live from this place of inner strength. You move closer to a life of genuine and lasting peace. Rule 6. Embrace your impermanence, the urgency of living well today. The world around us is in a constant state of flux. Every person, every moment, every possession is temporary. The Stoics understood that while this can be a terrifying thought, it can also be the most powerful motivator for living a good life. They didn't fear death. They used it as a tool for living more fully. This isn't about being morbid or dwelling on the negative. It's about a practice called memento mori, remember that you will die. And it's one of the most effective ways to find daily peace and strength. Most of us live as though we have an unlimited supply of tomorrows. We postpone our happiness, our dreams, and our acts of kindness. We think, I'll start that new hobby next year, or I'll tell them how I feel one day, or I'll visit my family when I have more time. But the truth, as Seneca so eloquently put it, is that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. We spend our lives in an imagined future, worrying about things that may never happen, and in an imagined past, regretting mistakes we can no longer change. We forget that the only moment we truly have is right now. Embracing your impermanence means you stop postponing happiness. It gives you a sense of urgency to live well today. It forces you to ask, if this were my last day, what would truly matter? This isn't meant to make you anxious, but to make you live with clarity and purpose. When you accept the temporary nature of things, you become more present, more grateful, and more intentional with your time and energy. Consider how this simple truth can transform your daily experience. When you're in a heated argument with a loved one, remembering the impermanence of your time together can help you choose compassion over pride. When you're struggling with a difficult project at work, remembering that this challenge, too, is temporary, can help you focus on the present effort rather than the future stress. When you are enjoying a beautiful moment, a quiet morning with a cup of coffee, a laugh with an old friend, the knowledge that this moment is fleeting makes it all the more precious. This practice also frees you from the bondage of material attachment. The Stoics recognize that we often derive our sense of security from external things, our jobs, our homes, our financial stability. But all of these things can be taken away in an instant. By embracing impermanence, you build your security on something that can never be lost: your inner character. You realize that your true wealth is not in what you possess, but in the wisdom, courage, and virtue you cultivate. The beautiful paradox of memento mori is that by contemplating death, you learn how to truly live. It strips away all the non-essentials and leaves you with the core of a meaningful existence. It clarifies your priorities, strengthens your resolve, and fills your heart with a profound sense of gratitude for the gift of life itself. The ancient Stoics understood that by accepting life's fragility, we unlock its full potential. Today, you have the opportunity to embrace this truth. Don't let the fear of an imagined future or the regret of a forgotten past keep you from living fully in the beautiful, messy, and miraculous present. Rule 7. Be a servant of virtue. The path to ultimate fulfillment. The ultimate purpose of a Stoic life is not to simply feel happy, but to be a good person. The Stoics believed that true fulfillment comes from living a life of virtue. They identified 4 core virtues that act as a compass for all our actions: wisdom, the ability to see things clearly and understand what is good and bad; justice, acting with fairness, kindness, and integrity toward others; courage, facing fear and difficulty with a strong spirit; and temperance, exercising self-control and moderation. These aren't just abstract ideals. They are the pillars upon which a truly happy and meaningful life is built. We're often told that happiness is the result of getting what we want, of satisfying our desires, but the Stoics argued that this pursuit leads to a cycle of fleeting pleasure and inevitable disappointment. When we tie our happiness to external things, we become slaves to our desires. The Stoics showed us a different path. True, lasting contentment is a byproduct of living a virtuous life. When you act with justice, when you show courage in the face of a challenge, when you choose temperance over impulse, you are not only doing good for the world, you are building an inner fortress that makes you unbreakable. Your happiness no longer depends on what happens to you, but on who you choose to be. The Stoic concept of virtue is deeply connected to the idea of being a servant. Not a servant to others' whims, but a servant of your own highest principles. It means your focus shifts from "what can I get" to "what can I give." This is why service to others is so central to Stoic philosophy. They understood that our humanity is intertwined. We are all part of a single community, and our well-being is connected to the well-being of others. Living justly and compassionately is not just a moral obligation, it is a direct path to our own fulfillment. When you contribute to the good of the whole, you find a deeper sense of purpose that external successes can never provide. This doesn't mean you must be perfect. The Stoics were very realistic about human nature. They knew we would make mistakes. The key is to constantly strive to be better. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Living a virtuous life is the process of choosing noble thoughts and actions, day after day. It's about building a character so strong that no external event can diminish it. Think about a time when you acted with integrity, even when it was difficult. Perhaps you stood up for someone who was being treated unfairly, or you chose to be honest when it would have been easier to lie. In that moment, you likely felt a quiet sense of pride and peace. That feeling is the reward of virtue. It is a form of happiness that is entirely within your control, because it doesn't depend on anyone else's approval or any external outcome. This is the path to ultimate fulfillment. Happiness isn't a goal to be pursued. It's a consequence of living a life of purpose and integrity. When all else fails, when the external world is in chaos, you can always find peace and strength in the knowledge that you are living in accordance with your highest self. You can always choose to be wise, to be just, to be courageous, and to be temperate. These are the choices that define you, and they are the only things that truly matter. They are the ultimate form of happiness because they are a reflection of who you are, not what you have. And so we arrive at the heart of our journey. We've explored 7 profound principles, from mastering your morning to embracing your impermanence and serving virtue. These aren't just separate rules, they are interconnected pieces of a single powerful philosophy. They form a complete framework for a life of purpose, peace, and strength. Most of us have been taught to believe that happiness is a state we passively wait for. We've been conditioned to think it's a feeling that will descend upon us once we achieve a certain status, acquire a certain amount of wealth, or live a certain kind of perfect, problem-free life. But that is a myth. The Stoics proved that happiness isn't a passive gift from the universe. It's an active creation. It's the result of your daily, moment-by-moment choices. Think back to the great figures we've mentioned. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who found peace in a world of war. Epictetus, the former slave who found freedom in his own mind. Seneca, the philosopher who found meaning in loss. They didn't have easy lives. They had something far more valuable. They had a trained mind. They understood that external events can never take away your ability to choose your response. Your power to be happy isn't fragile, it's unbreakable. It's built on a foundation of virtue, character, and a deep understanding of what is and is not in your control. Today, you have the opportunity to move from being a victim of your circumstances to being the architect of your own happiness. You don't have to wait for life to get easier. You can get stronger. You can choose to find purpose in pain, freedom in letting go, and joy in gratitude. You can choose to build your inner worth on a foundation no storm can destroy. This is the ultimate lesson of the Stoic philosophy. It's not about being emotionless or detached. It's about being profoundly in control of the one thing that truly matters, your mind. Conclusion. And so we've reached the end of our journey through the 7 Stoic rules for daily happiness and strength. We started by challenging the myth that happiness is something you find, and instead, we embraced the truth that it's something you build. We learned to master our morning mind by preparing for reality, not fantasy. We discovered the powerful alchemy of transforming pain into purpose, turning our most difficult moments into opportunities for growth. We found profound freedom in releasing the need to control everything and focusing on the only thing we truly can control, our inner state. We cultivated a heart filled with peace through the practice of a grateful perspective, seeing the abundance that already exists in our lives. We committed to building an unshakable inner worth, a foundation of character that no external event can destroy. We embraced our impermanence, using the urgency of life's brevity to live with intention and purpose. And finally, we understood that ultimate fulfillment comes from being a servant of virtue, living a life of wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. These aren't just a list of things to remember. They are a roadmap for living. They are the same timeless truths that helped emperors, slaves, and philosophers find peace amidst chaos. They are the tools that can help you find peace in your own life. Right now, today. The journey doesn't end when this video does. It begins. I want you to choose one of these 7 rules, just one, and commit to practicing it for the next 7 days. Don't try to change everything at once. Just focus on one principle, whether it's mastering your morning mind or finding gratitude in a difficult moment. If you're ready to start building your happiness instead of waiting for it to find you, drop a comment below and share which rule you're going to focus on first. Your commitment can inspire someone else who is just starting this journey. And if this message has resonated with you, please hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so we can continue this powerful conversation together. Remember, you have more power over your happiness than you ever realized. Go out and choose to build it, one day at a time. The work is hard, but the peace you find is worth it.
Thank you for watching this video here on the Stoic philosophy. If you found value in this, I invite you to explore more videos on the channel. There's so much more wisdom to uncover. And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next one. Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.